Vinyl community, how you all doing? I'm just walking home back to our Airbnb. I've just been at Amoeba in Berkeley, and yeah, that was the last sort of digging session of the trip. For anyone that doesn't know, I've just been down the west coast from Vancouver in Canada out to Vancouver Island, Victoria, down to Seattle, down to Portland, and flying out of San Francisco. So I've probably managed to hit up about 20 record stores in total, something like that. Did a lot of sightseeing and a lot of digging, and I'm really grateful that I kind of had the time and the money, and my partner had the patience to let me do that. It's been pretty amazing. I've seen a lot of amazing records, you know, things up on the wall for crazy amounts, and yeah, I think I've done pretty well overall. I'll talk more about each record when I cut to me being back in New Zealand, but this is a bit of an intro. Yeah, I had an amazing time. I had an amazing vinyl community catch up in Portland, which was really cool, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I just thought I'd sort of capture this now as I'm just kind of walking home and walking around this really beautiful neighborhood, really enjoying. You probably can't really capture it, but the trees and the plants and the nature is just so different to what we have in New Zealand. Lots of like cactuses, and yeah, it's just the air smells different, it feels different. It's really beautiful here in Berkeley, San Francisco. But yeah, this is the video. I'm probably only going to show like my highlights, because I reckon I've picked up about 40 or 50 records, something like that in total. And quite a few of them are kind of like what I will call catalog records, you know, sort of $7, $8, $9 things that I've been kind of after that will cost a lot more in New Zealand. I did get some upgrade copies of things, a couple of originals of, you know, that I already have reissues of that I can sell for the same price. A couple of items that have been in my want list for a very long time. Well, quite a lot actually, but there's a couple that are quite high up there. But yeah, I had an amazing time. Kind of sad to be going back home, but that's the way it is. But I'm going to cut forward to future James, who's going to be in Wellington, New Zealand, and it's going to be fucking freezing and probably raining. Bye. And now with the magic of editing, we are 6 weeks ahead. I have grown a beard, and it's the middle of winter here, and it's very cold. Yeah, so I thought I would do a little bit of an intro. While I was over there, I'm now back home and settled and kind of made my way through most of the records. I'm going to try and film this video and talk about the records I picked up kind of in chronological order. And I'm probably going to split it over 2 or 3 videos, just because there is about 40 records to get through. And some I will talk about in more detail and some about in less. Just depends on the record. But yeah, I thought maybe in this video I'll just cover my finds in Vancouver, Seattle, and Portland. Just mainly because I got the most stuff in San Francisco, and probably the best stuff in San Francisco by far. So that's kind of the plan. So I'll try and put little screenshots and videos where I can throughout the video. But yeah, I did pretty well altogether. I definitely had planned to buy less and spend more, like get sort of quality over quantity, but I ended up finding that the quality stuff was just so stupidly crazy expensive, and there was a lot of stuff that had been on my want list but weren't super high that was pretty cheap. So I kind of ended up going a bit crazy and getting a lot of things that were sort of on the want list but weren't, you know, within the top 10 or 20 records that I really want, sort of thing. So I kind of failed on that part. But I had a really enjoyable time digging through lots of stores, all down the coast, which is really exciting. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. I've had a few people ask me, when is this video coming? I will say first up, I hope you're not all expecting mega grails and stuff like that, because I've just gone and bought what I wanted at the time. In fact, the first 3 records aren't particularly cool. First 4 records aren't particularly cool records, but they're records that I love. So I don't know. Anyway, we'll start off with, in chronological order, we flew in from New Zealand direct to Vancouver. We only had 2 days in Vancouver because we had to head off to a wedding in Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island. So we got a ferry across. So we only had 2 days in Vancouver, and we were quite jet lagged. I did manage to get into a couple of stores in downtown Vancouver, but I didn't buy anything because there wasn't really anything. All the things I wanted were really, really expensive. So yeah, I didn't pick up anything in Vancouver, but I did have about 4 days in Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island. I'll put up a few photographs around here of there. Beautiful, beautiful place. Yeah, it was really, really wonderful. The weather was perfect. But there was 3 record stores I think I checked out. One of them, which was in the Chinatown area, had some really cool stuff, but it was a bit pricey. In hindsight, I regret not picking up a couple of things that I really wanted. But it was kind of the beginning of the trip, and I didn't know what was ahead of me, so I didn't bother. So yeah, there was a few things there that I probably should have got now I think about it. But then I did, the first store where I bought some things was a record store called Ditch Records. And for some reason, everything in that store was really cheap. Like half the price. For new records, like almost half the price of what I pay in New Zealand. So I kind of pulled out a bunch of stuff that I probably didn't need, but had been on my want list for a while. So the first one is this absolute classic record here. I'll move over a little bit just so you can see clearly. This is You've Forgotten It's in People by Broken Social Scene. If you were into any sort of indie rock or alternative rock in the 2000s, you should know this record. It's kind of been one of those ones that I've wanted for a while, but not enough to go and jump online and buy it. I just thought, because it was so cheap, and I was in Canada, and these guys are from Toronto. It felt like it was in the spirit of the holiday kind of purchase. This is on the Arts and Crafts label from Canada. This is their second album, came out in 2002. The one after this is also really good, but yeah, this is fantastic. If you like indie rock, alternative rock, I'm sure lots of you know this. I think this is kind of a classic, you know. It should be in the top 10 indie rock 2000s lists. Okay, cut to future James, who's sitting here on a cold, rainy morning editing the video. I forgot to say something that I was going to mention, which is really interesting. So, you know, if I was doing a give me 10 Big Star 1000 style indie rock records, you know, this would definitely be in there, along with, you know, things like the Arcade Fire first record, Vampire Weekend, The Strokes. I'm having a mind blank, but you know, there's I could easily do a top 10, but this would definitely be up there. But the first side, which is the first 4 tracks, I don't care about at all. I don't find them very interesting or very engaging. They kind of now sound like very generic indie rock stuff. But then everything after that is so perfect that's why I was sneaking to the top 10. You know, I mean, if the album started on Looks Just Like the Sun, I would be over the moon with that. I would call it a perfect record. But for some reason, the first 4 tracks just don't move for me at all and never have. But yeah, anything after that, I love it. It's really strange. Just a little interesting interlude there, I guess. I did pick up this one because it had been on my list for ages, and it sort of sold out everywhere pretty quick after it came out. I never picked up a copy. This is James Tatum, Contemporary Jazz Mass. This was recorded live, I think it was 1974, at a church in Detroit, Michigan. What is this? I guess it is a contemporary jazz mass. You know, there's vocals in here. It's very spiritual. There's a bit of a gospel thing going on. There's some really beautiful piano playing by James Tatum. Yeah, wonderful. I guess you would just call it a spiritual vocal jazz mess record. I don't know how to say it more than that. Yeah, it's been on my list for a while. This is the Jazzman Grail reissue or something. It's called like Super Grail reissue. I don't know. But yeah, very happy. One on the want list. Again, this one had also been on my radar for a long time, but I'd never seen a copy in this part of the world. This is Denis, Mpunga and Paul K. Criola. This is on the wonderful, wonderful label Music from Memory. If you don't know that label, please check it out. They do some really, really obscure and fantastic, interesting releases. So what is this? This is kind of a compilation of stuff taken from cassette tapes and other compilations from 1984. Now, it's kind of a collaboration between these two people, Paul K. from Belgium and Denis Mpunga from the Congo, and it's from 1984, and it's basically it's like African electronic would be the best way I would say. Yeah, a mixture of traditional African and sort of experimental electronic stuff. It's really, really good. The only thing is it's super short, but all the tracks are absolutely killer. Yeah, so the tracks are sort of like 1 minute long, 2 minute long. Yeah, really interesting. If you like someone like Wally Badarou, you know, or even early trip hop, it's kind of an electronic-y African thing. It's really, really good. I'm not doing it justice. Yeah, really happy to grab a copy of this. Finally. So this was all at the same store. And then I did pick up the next one, which may surprise you, but I really like this record here. Bonnie Raitt. Yes, I'm telling you. Bonnie Raitt. Check out the track Thank You from this album. It's really, really beautiful. Really soft, really heartfelt and warm. Overall, this album is sort of like a bar blues, Chicago blues kind of album, but more on a singer-songwriter side than a blues side, is how I would probably describe it. It opens with a really cool version of Bluebird by Stephen Stills, and Junior Wells is on all through here playing harp. But yeah, I don't know. Check it out if you want. I really like this record. There's something about it that feels very yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Just a really solid record. There's a couple of tracks on later albums too where she goes into like a full-on funky rock vibe with some killer vocals that I'm kind of going to try and track down. But yeah, I was happy to find this. This was like super cheap. I think it was like five Canadian dollars, maybe even less than that. So yeah, I was really happy. The other track which makes me laugh is the Mighty Tight Woman and Finest Lovin' Man. So there you go. Yeah, Bonnie Raitt, really wonderful. So there we go. Yeah, so I was quite happy with those. That was Vancouver Island, Victoria, which is the capital there. Yeah, we were there for a wedding of a friend, and then the next stop was getting the ferry over from there to Seattle. So it was my first time doing a border crossing via the sea. My main thing that I wanted to go to was the Light in the Attic record store, which I went to and was in a really cool space. But I was actually pretty disappointed. It was quite cool because they had Light in the Attic was there, and KEXP radio station was all in the same area, and a really good coffee shop was nearby. But Light in the Attic, I guess because it's such a famous label and they've put out, you know, really amazing and influential compilations, things that have like really changed my direction discovering music. I had high hopes for it. And I don't know if it was because of the timing that I went there or not, but it was essentially mainly just kind of, you know, stock reissues of Light in the Attic things that you can kind of get anywhere in the world. You know, it was kind of most of the back catalogue of Light in the Attic stuff. It didn't kind of have the selection I was hoping for, to the point where I didn't actually buy anything in the end from there. So I kind of was feeling a bit disappointed. And so I finished there, you know. We went around the Chihuly Glass Gardens, which was really cool. We went to Mopop, which is really cool. Like, I saw some very, very cool music, historical music things. Like I went through the guitar gallery, and there's a really cool hip hop exhibition, an amazing Sub Pop and Nirvana exhibit, which was really fascinating. I should also say I did go to the Sub Pop store, which is kind of just a corporate. It's very touristy. It's not what you'd think that would be like at all. It's right next to the Amazon Spheres, so it's in a very sort of fancy corporate area. I bought a t-shirt just because it was cool to say I've been there, but it wasn't a place of any historical value. It's just in kind of an office CBD area. All new records. Nothing amazing. Anyway, back on task. So yeah, I left Light in the Attic, and kind of that was, you know, one of the main bits of my day, and I felt a bit disappointed, but I did decide to walk sort of 10 minutes away to a store called Royal Records, not expecting to find anything, which was a really cool space. I really enjoyed digging through. There was a couple of guys hanging around there was one guy hanging around the counter trying to talk to the owner, waffling on about something, and it was just a classic record store. Older guy who's got nothing to do with his time, but just bicker at the record store owner. Anyway, I did find. So the one thing I was hoping to find at Light in the Attic, they didn't have, but I found it weirdly at the store 10 minutes down the road, and that was this thing here, which is the Native North America box set. It's the sort of thing that for me to get this shipped to New Zealand, it would kind of make it, you know, stupid price-wise, but to get them in the US is definitely much more valuable. Yeah, so this is the Light in the Attic 2014 box set. You know, what it says on the tin, Native North America. There's some beautiful songs on here, sung in both native languages and English. But yeah, it's basically a comp of Aboriginal folk, rock and country. I think the years are 66 to 85. Yeah, I haven't made my way through the whole thing yet, but there are some really fantastic choices on here. Yeah. Interestingly, it says it's volume 1, but they never released a second one. It comes with this really beautiful booklet that I'm still making my way through. Yeah, this is kind of Golden Light in the Attic 2014. A lot of effort put into this. Super wonderful. Yeah, I'm really happy to finally get that. Annoyingly, because I was so I should say, I don't really care about this at all, but for some people that do, it's on this sort of like goldy orange there vinyl. Anyway, because I was so excited to find it, it was kind of one of the records I was hoping to find over there, and not being able to find it in Light in the Attic, I probably paid a little bit more than I should have, especially because I found it in Portland for cheaper, and I found it in Amoeba in San Francisco again for even cheaper. So I definitely overpaid for it, but that's just a lesson I learned. So yeah, I kind of didn't get much of a chance to go out further around to the suburbs, like in Seattle. We went out to Fremont, and I looked in a couple of kind of like secondhand shops there, and there was some interesting stuff, but nothing I needed. I did go to The Cure, which I saw while I was in Seattle. That was pretty okay. Like, I've seen them before a couple of times, and they were a lot better. This time I was kind of in a stadium. It was very high up at the back. They kind of rushed through a lot of the songs. They also didn't play a lot of the songs that I really like, or I think are much better. They kind of played lots of stuff from like Head on the Door, The Top, that sort of weird, yeah, not really my sort of stuff. I'm a big football fan, some of you may know this, so I went to I should say soccer fan. I did manage to go to a soccer and MLS soccer game, so I went to Seattle Sounders versus San Jose Earthquakes. So that was really cool. It was like, I guess for me, I always watch a very English version of the sport, whether that be the New Zealand teams or in the English leagues, which is kind of very, it's probably, I mean, I don't really watch the Premier League apart from the highlights, but I watch my team Bradford are in a lower league. They're now in the same league as Wrexham, for anyone that is interested. It's a lot slower, more tactical, more about build up and breaking down. And that's what the football is like in New Zealand here also, and Australia, I would say. Roughly speaking. And watching this game. So first of all, like, this was like a Thursday night match. It wasn't a particularly huge game stakes wise, but there was like a whole cheerleading thing. There was lights everywhere. There was fireworks. There was like a bloody trumpet marching band going on. There was a lady at the front with a loudspeaker, like, really, like, telling the crowd to, singing along with the crowd and stuff like that. Like, it was a spectacle. It was kind of ridiculous, but I did enjoy it. Lights all over the stadium with big screens. This was just a Thursday night season match, but I enjoyed it. It was definitely an experience. In terms of the football, I kind of found it very. It was very, very entertaining. Like, it was very, I would almost say for me, gung-ho. Like, the players were kind of running everywhere. Tactically, there was massive gaps in the field. Like, defenders running all the way up to the middle of midfield, leaving holes on the back. Players were attempting to do overhead kicks and volleys and completely missing them in the chances of the match coming off. Both teams, there was, players running backwards. Just really, like, overlapping runs that seemed really odd. I found it very entertaining, but tactically very weird. I don't know. It was fun. It felt like very American. I don't know how to describe it. Entertainment value, top. I'm glad I went. I'm really glad I went. And then, like, the merchandise, like, I went to look to see what the merchandise store was like. And it was like a supermarket of merchandise, and it was packed, and people were pulling stuff off the shelves, and I'm like, this is like an early season midweek game. Like, it was wild. Anyway, that was interesting. So that was Seattle. Now Portland is where I kind of had my first sort of big stack of records that I pulled through. I'm just going to pause this and have a sip, actually, before I move on to Portland. One moment. So next we got the train from Seattle down to Portland. Went down through Tacoma, through Washington State, and into Oregon. Pulled into Oregon Station. I think we got there sort of mid-afternoon, and thanks to Tom over at High Rant District, we decided to stay on Mississippi Avenue, which I eternally thank Tom for recommending that spot, because it felt very safe, felt very trendy. There was lots of amazing food, amazing coffee shops nearby, and most importantly, Mississippi Records was a 5-minute walk away. I think we arrived on a Saturday or a Friday, and got there in the evening, went out and had some dinner, and the next day I went off to meet Tom over at High Rant District. I'm sure you all know Tom. And I caught up with Dan Vinyl Fury, long time member of the VC. I think he's probably is going for even longer than me, possibly. So I was really excited to meet them both. They didn't know each other, which is, I felt, was kind of crazy considering they both live in Portland. And I did try and get involved with catching up with Andreas Grecian Thunder, who used to make videos, but I think he was busy with work. So the three of us caught up and had an amazing time. We met up at Mississippi Records and kind of, you know, we could immediately talk about records and the VC together, which is kind of like the bonding thing, right? It's almost like a shortcut. You can kind of just start talking about music really instantly. Yeah, and I think we all picked up some really good stuff. So we did that. I think we went for a couple of beers and we had some chats and we talked about you guys and the VC in general, and we had a couple more beers. And then we went back to another place that Dan recommended. And then we went back to Dan's house for a little bit, which was really, really cool. And yeah, I watched Dan's videos, and I kind of have been more recently, and I kind of wasn't watching for a while on and off, but it was really strange for me to be in the space where those videos are kind of filmed, because you kind of see it every time you watch it, but to be there was kind of strange, which is weird because talking to Dan wasn't strange at all. Like, I just felt like we'd known each other for ages, which was really good. Yeah, I had a really good time. So anyway, we were talking about music here and there and things, music that we had in common, and I kind of said to Dan that there's a lot of bands that he really likes that I also really like, but I don't ever really talk about on my channel, just because I don't either buy the records or I don't feel I need to talk about them. You know, so we talked about Deftones. I'm actually a really big fan. We talked about Third Eye Blind. Believe it or not, I am kind of a fan. In fact, I think I've got 3 records that I've never shown on the channel before. Yeah, the Dismemberment Plan. There's a whole bunch more that I don't particularly talk about, but I've kind of said you're the only person I watched on the VC that talks about the stuff, which I found really interesting. Anyway, he sort of said, do you have a copy of Dismemberment Plan Change? And I said, no, but I love that album. I just have never picked it up. And he's like, I've got a spare copy. So then we decided to go back to his place, which was quite close by. And he gifted me a copy of this, which I'm so happy about because I do really, really like this record. If you don't know it, I don't know how to describe it apart from saying it's kind of like really technical. Is it math rock, indie rock, but with like really, really technical playing, great bass playing, a really tight band, and really catchy tunes. It's from 2014, and it sounds like it's from 2014, but this is kind of the one. I'm torn between Emergency and I and this one as a favorite, but this has the first 3 tracks are amazing, and the last track, Ellen and Ben. Really, really fun. It reminds me of being a teenager. But yeah, I think this is a Record Store Day reissue that Dan just gave to me, which I'm really, really happy about. This will stay in my collection forever because it's nice to get some in-person VCLT. Yeah, so again, thank you, Dan. I was really happy. And it was also cool just to have a dig through Dan's collection and see what he had as well. And I kind of could have sat there all day and looked through them all. So yeah, I had a really great time. I mean, you should always catch up with VC members when you can. But yeah, it was really great. It was really great to see Tom. I'm a big fan of Tom's channel. I said to him, like, you're one of the only people that I basically will watch the whole video as soon as I can. Yeah, the personalities are the same as the videos, which I really, really like. We had some good food, good chats. I think we went to another bar after that. Ended up being almost a whole day. And I hadn't ate much, and I think I had about 4 beers. So I had a nice time. I had a really good time. I'll quickly show what I picked up. At the time, I thought this was an original pressing of Blowout Comb, but it's actually like a bootleg reissue, which is kind of funny because my version of the other album, Diggin', is also a bootleg by the same people, and it sounds really, really good. So that's why I never bought the reissue of it. I bought the bootleg, like, honestly, about 10, 15 years ago.
So this kind of matches. So I'm kind of happy to have the 2 bootleg versions of it. I don't need to talk about this album. It's an absolute classic hip hop record. I got it really cheap. So happy with that. What else? Okay, two albums that kind of go hand in hand. This is Robbie Basho, The Falconers Arms 1 and 2. I had been after these for the longest time. These are actually reissues of like kind of unknown reissues. To get clean copies of originals, you know, are kind of silly money these days. So I was really happy with that. If you'd like John Fahey, if you like, yeah, it's just sort of that sort of like guitar solo kind of sound. These are absolutely wonderful records. Really powerful playing. Very transcendent. Yeah, really happy. I was actually, funnily enough, these have been on my want list for a very long time, and I was just talking to Dan, just standing by a record bin, talking to Dan, and I started idly sort of like doing this with my fingers while we were talking, and I looked down at what they were, and I saw these two, and I just sort of casually pulled them out, and I carried on talking, and I was like, oh, I've been looking for these for like 12 years. And like, I was half on the conversation, and my other part of my brain was like, bing, 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 bing. So I was really happy with that. Yeah, Robbie Basho is wonderful. Check out his album Visions of the Country also. I think is really great. Actually, Dan, if you're watching, you might like that one. I'm pretty sure it's on Windham Hill or something like that, or it's related to it. Robbie Basho, Visions of the Country. Yeah, anyway. I also grabbed this record here, which I absolutely love. This is Mario Rui Silva, Stories from Another Time, 1982 to 1988. So this guy is from, and I think his parents are Portuguese, but he was born in Angola and grew up in Angola. So it's just a wonderful blend of African music and almost sounds Portuguese and Latin. Some really beautiful grooves. I'm sorry, I'm really talked out. I've been speaking a lot. My throat's actually a bit sore, but it's just beautiful. Really stunning record. I don't know how to describe it apart from saying it sounds like African folk music from Angola. It sounds like there's tracks that sound kind of like MPB, Brazilian, African, really low tempo, really groovy. If you put it on during summertime, this will be the perfect record. You kind of need to give it a few listens to really get into it, but yeah, I've been spending this to death lately. Mario Rui Silva, really wonderful. Okay, 2 more. I had to buy some Mississippi records from Mississippi Records. I'm a really big fan of the label, so I picked up one of their latest releases. This is Celestine Ukwu and his Philosophers National. A wonderful, it's not high life, but it's kind of post high life. I don't know what that is as a genre. African record. This sounds really weird, but it's got some sort of ethereal. I mean, it's like, it's from Nigeria, and I mean, I'm lost for words. I'm sorry. Beautiful, spiritual, African folk music, I guess. But yeah, please check this out. I think it's all available on YouTube. I picked up that, and I picked up this really cute, charming record that I'd heard before on Mississippi called Frank and His Sisters. And Frank and his sisters were kind of a touring family band, and they sort of traveled around East Africa playing some really nice tunes. I think that these guys were around in sort of the late 50s, early 60s. Very uplifting, very happy. They were from the Congo. Yeah, it's just really beautiful, really fun, really nice, very uplifting. Yeah, Frank and his sisters, Mary, Frank, and Tekla. Love the cover too. So yeah, from this point on, we get into some like pretty big hitters in terms of things that I've been after for a while. So after that, I think the next store I went to was Little Axe Records. So I walked into Little Axe, and on my right-hand side, I immediately saw the African section, and I kind of got up close to it, and I realized that within the African section, it was split by country in Africa, and then within that, there was genres within each country, and that kind of just blew my mind to see that in a record store. And I was digging through lots of it, and some names I vaguely recognized. There was lots of original pressings. They were all quite expensive and all in not very great condition. I just thought, there's probably amazing stuff in here, but I just don't know, what I want to get, what I want to do. I was sort of digging through, and then I noticed, the wall of rare records were kind of there up in front of me. And I saw this record here, which I obviously bought. Up on the wall, and I saw the price tag, and I thought, oh, that's too much money. And I thought, but it's been on my list forever, and I love the record, and I've never seen a copy before in real life. And I thought, no, I'm not going to get it. And then it sort of like went throughout the rest of the store, and I pulled out quite a lot of amazing stuff. And I kept looking at the thing on the wall, and I thought, do I buy that? I'm going to put these back. I'm going to buy that instead. And I did. And this is the wonderful record by Mission of Burma. I'm sure you guys know this. An absolute classic US post-punk record. Yeah, this is an original pressing on Ace of Hearts Records from 1982. I'll show you the label there. Kind of one of those, for me, a classic post-punk record that I've been missing for a very long time. It sounds like the guitar tones are amazing. There's tape loops. It sounds like wire in places. This is it was expensive because it's in immaculate condition. I love this. I was also at the time of my trip reading the book This Band Could Be Your Life by John Azarad. I'll put a thing up of the thing here. And I had just finished the Mission of Burma section, which was really convenient. And I thought, well, you know what? It's meant to be. So I grabbed it. So this was the most expensive record that I bought of the trip in total. But yeah, really, really worth it. I love this record. I think it's super fantastic. Mission of Burma. I won't talk about it too much. So then I sort of said to myself, okay, well, I'll just buy this. I'll walk out the door and I'll be done with it. And of course, I got to the counter and I saw that there was a new arrivals bin right back at the counter, which I had missed. In fact, there was 3 new arrivals bins. And I kind of flicked through, and straight away I saw this record here, which has been on my list for ages. Now, this record used to be cheap, like not even that long ago, like maybe 7 or 8 years ago. This used to be a cheap record, and I never bought it. And I remember putting a copy back for like 20 Australian dollars, which wouldn't have been, it was like, years ago, because I thought, it's a later Marion Brown, it looks kind of like it might be 80s, I'm not going to bother. But I later learned that this is a fantastic spiritual jazz record. It sounds like it would fit into that realm between Pharoah Sanders Thembi and Lonnie Liston Smith. Really wonderful, spiritual, ethereal, uplifting. It's really wonderful. Harold Budd appears on here playing Celeste, and they do a version of one of his tracks too. You've got Stanley Cowell, Marion Brown, Reggie Workman, Anthony Davis, and Ed Blackwell. The best track on here by far is the reworking of My Moon, which is the Stanley Cowell track. You probably might know it from the ECM record called Illusion Suite. It's got that amazing piano and bass combination. That one feels quite stripped back. Like, this one is kind of a bigger, bloomier, spiritual jazz version. Like, it's kind of the best version of that piece of music, I think. I'm really happy to get this. Now, I paid a bit for this, and and I convinced myself it was worth it. The condition is not as great as I thought it would have been based on the price, but I have it now and I'm happy. Yeah, really, really wonderful spiritual jazz record on Impulse. I think I want to say 1975 here. Oh, that's not it. That's the cover. Who knows what this is, by the way. I can never figure it out. And the last one was kind of cheap, but it's not been on my list for a while. This is Tony Joe. I want to say it's his third album. I could be wrong. It's just Tony Joe by Tony Joe White. So there's a couple of really, really nice... The reason I'm buying this, I'm not going to lie, is the opening track, Stud Spider, which is an absolute stomping, bluesy rock, swamp rock piece. It has an amazing guitar tone in it. He uses a really interesting pedal as the Wampa Stomp. Sorry, he uses a Wampa Stomper and box, so it has a amazing like wah sound to it. There's a version of Hard to Handle on here, which is okay, and then there's I think it's called My Friend, which is a really nice song as well. Yeah, really, really good, really nice listen. But the title track is the one that kind of blows it away for me. Pretty sure I heard it on one of those country funk comps that came out a few years ago. Yeah, really good. And it does a version of Boom Boom by John Lee Hooker as well. Super cool. There he is on the back, Tony Joe White. Kind of feel like I really need to get more of his records. I'm quite familiar with his albums, but I just never really come across them. So that was that for Little Axe. So the next part of the trip, we kind of hit the road and we did a bit of a road trip. So we drove out from Portland and went straight directly across to the Oregon coast. We made our way all the way down the coast. We didn't drive on the I-5, the main one. We actually went along like the coast road there. So we stopped at a whole bunch of towns like Cannon Beach, and we stayed in this beautiful small fishing town called Yakats. And it was so quiet, and we booked into like a motel, which was kind of nice. And we said to the guy, where do you recommend for dinner? He's like, there's about 4 places, but there's only one real place you want to go to. And it was kind of a seafood. It's not even a restaurant. It was someone's house. It was like in the basement of a house, and they were and it was kind of like an ocean to plate kind of thing. Like we walked down there, and there was people pulling fish out from a boat. That they were scrubbing down the concrete where they prepared the fish, and there was someone out frying the fish. It was so fresh, and I had an amazing seafood chowder, probably the best seafood chowder I've had in my whole life. It was really beautiful. It felt like a very authentic experience, Yeah, it was obviously a fishing town. It used to be a big fishing town. But yeah, it was beautiful. It was a really, really nice night. Something that I'll remember for a long time. Yeah, and then we went for a couple of hikes. We went into the redwoods, went for a hike around there. I was afraid of bears attacking us because a lady had said that she'd seen on the trail, she'd seen a small baby bear and was worried that there was a mother bear around and that could be trouble. So they warned us to be as noisy as possible. So I spent the whole hike freaking out. And then we cut and land for one night to go to Ashland. And we spent one really, really nice night there, had some amazing Italian meal. And I managed to sneak in a visit to one record store in Ashland before it closed. And I got something that I'm really happy with because I've been after this for a while here. This is My Griffin Is Gone by Hoyt Axton, which is an absolutely wonderful singer-songwriter record. if you like Gene Clark, you would love this. Please check out the track Way Before the Time of Towns. Yeah, absolutely wonderful record. Yeah, the owner was really happy that someone bought this, and he kind of couldn't believe that I knew what it was. But the only reason I know about this is because my friend Mike recommended this a while ago, and I checked it out on YouTube, and I really liked it. Yeah, if you like, I guess I would say Gene Clark, singer-songwriter, or West Coast sort of songwriter stuff. He's not far off. This is not a West Coast record at all, but yeah, Hoyt Axton. Really wonderful. There he is on the back. So yeah, as you can see, kind of a lot of kind of mid-level records that were really cheap, and I just grabbed them. And then some nice, more expensive pieces. So that was kind of part one. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but part two is where, yeah, the jazz comes in a bit more, I would say. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully this video isn't too long and too over-edited. I've no idea how it's going to come out, but I'll see you all soon. Bye!